Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I believe there are two clear and different visions of America for America. In fact, there's no one better to actually explain this than Congressman Tim Ryan, the Democrat from Ohio, in a pretty powerful speech that he gave on the floor of United States Congress. You really have to check out his vision and his outlook for the two different versions of America. Let's roll the tape and hear from Tim Ryan, the Democratic congressman from Ohio. Let's watch.
To speak. What you're seeing here before the United States Congress is two clear, different visions of America and where we want to go and what we want to do. We know that China is running circles around us. We know they're building islands in the South China Sea. We know Russia's on the border. We know the middle class has been eroded. And we know the Republican philosophy has been cut taxes for the top 1% and hope the crumbs fall down to places like Youngstown, Ohio. But what we are trying to do is three things. We want to build the United States, we want to rebuild the middle class, and we want to beat China. And we can't do that if we don't have our greatest weapon. And our greatest weapon during the Cold War and our greatest weapon over the last 50 years has been a strong middle class. That's been our greatest weapon, our greatest strength has been we reinvested into the United States. We reinvested into our communities. We invested in the technology, and we dominated the industry, steel, glass, aerospace. And now we're hearing from the other side, shut government down, don't do anything, we don't want to be an honest broker. Tyranny? What are you people talking about? We're talking about universal preschool, and they have it as a communist indoctrination of the American student. It's insane. We need to pass this appropriations bill. We need to pass the CHIPS Act because we got to close the technology gap. So you look at all these boats out in California, they're not, ask for an additional 30 seconds.
I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Ohio.
We see all these ships, cargo ships out in California. They're not coming from Kansas. They're coming from China. And if we don't reinvest and bring these supply chains back here, we're going to continue to lose. And that's what's happening. China's out-manufacturing us semiconductors, communications equipment, electric vehicles, batteries. We have to rebuild our country.
Now, on the other hand, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican from Georgia, who basically said the government should be shut it down, do not pass a continuing resolution, shut it down. Now, I guess she has to make herself useful, she has to make herself valuable, and the best way to do that is to be as bombastic as possible. Now, the continuing resolution was passed. The government is not going to shut down. But let's take a look at Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican from Georgia, asking for the government to shut down. Let's roll the tape and watch.
What an outrage. What an irresponsibility. That isn't courage. That is not responsibility. That is out of control behavior that this Congress needs to rein in. This government should be shut down. You want to know why it should be shut down? Because the people in here cannot control themselves. The people in here don't understand how to balance a checkbook. And the people in here do not deserve the responsibility on how to spend the American people's money. $29 trillion. $29 trillion, Madam Speaker. Shut it down.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Do not pass the CR. Shut it down.
Let's get back to the Democrat, Tim Ryan, the Democrat from Ohio. This is what he said. Tyranny? What are you people talking about? We're talking about universal preschool, and they have it as a communist indoctrination of the American student. He's talking about Republicans who call a lot of the stuff that the Democrats are doing as tyranny. Let's roll the tape and watch.
And now we're hearing from the other side, shut government down, don't do anything, we don't want to be an honest broker. Tyranny? What are you people talking about? We're talking about universal preschool, and they have it as a communist indoctrination of the American student. It's insane.
Now, folks, let's shift gears to Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is a Democrat from Florida. She said, quote, I say this, I say to my Republican colleagues, it's time to show up to work and stop worshipping at the altar of Donald Trump for 5 minutes, long enough to do your job. Wow, pretty powerful statements from Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Let's roll the tape and see what she had to say.
Let's get serious about governing. I say to my Republican colleagues, it's time to show up to work and stop worshiping at the altar of Donald Trump for 5 minutes, long enough to do your job. Let's stop this legislative brinksmanship and immediately begin to negotiate the FY22 bills so we can meet our country's needs. Thank you.
And finally, folks, in a pretty astonishing video from the recount, let's get the timeline of former President Trump's COVID diagnosis. On the 26th of September, he tested positive for COVID. On the 27th of September, he hosted an indoor event with military families. And by the way, he later said that that could have been the reason he got COVID, which clearly is not true. On the 29th of September, he debated President Biden in person, and he arrived too late to actually be tested. And in fact, if he had COVID at that time, he was endangering not just President Biden, but everyone else, including the Fox News host Chris Wallace. On the 1st of October, there was an official announcement of positive tests from the physician. And on the 2nd of October, he was flown to the hospital. Let's roll the tape. And let's check out the timeline of former President Trump's COVID diagnosis. Let's watch.
We now know the timeline goes like this. On September 26, Trump hosted a Rose Garden event for then Supreme Court Justice nominee Amy Coney Barrett, now considered a super spreader event. That's the day Trump first tested positive, then later that day tested negative in a rapid test. On the 27th, Trump attended indoor events with Gold Star military families. Then on the 29th, Chris Wallace of Fox says Trump was not tested at the debate with Biden because he arrived late. On October 1st, it was officially announced that Trump tested positive for COVID, and on the 2nd, he was flown to the hospital. Trump, as to be expected, is dismissing it all as fake news.
So that's where things stand, everyone. Let me know what you think. Please click like, please click subscribe, please enable notifications. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.